Hello, I'm Michael Swaim, and welcome back to Tales from the Pit. On this episode, I have the immense pleasure of sitting down with comedian, YouTuber, and newest Small Bean superstar, Maggie Mae Fish. She's the host of our newest podcast on the Small Beans Network, My Top 8, which we hope you'll also check out. In the meantime, here's me and Maggie discussing the fuzzy line between grief and depression, and the infinite different forms depression can take. But before that, we have a phone call to make.
Hello, and welcome to Moody Phone. If you know the name of your mental malady, please enter the first 3 letters using a touch-tone keypad now. You have selected Sundowner Syndrome with acute schizoid tendencies, rated R. If this is correct, shriek wildly. If not, press 1. Ora continuar en español, oprima número 8. Okay, to help determine the name of your mental malady, please answer the following questions using a touch-tone keypad now. Question 1. What is the present? If it is our gift to the future, press 1. If it is all we will ever have, the very flowing river of our fleeting lives, press 2. If it's a nice place to visit, but you'd much rather live in your fears and regrets, enter the sad face emoticon. Question 2. What time is it? If you responded island time, press 1. If you responded Miller time and or crystal meth time, press 2. If you responded, oh shit, why, am I late to something and now everyone hates me? Hit yourself in the face with your phone because it's what you deserve. Question 3. You have just achieved a long-term goal. How do you feel, hotshot? If you feel like a hotshot, press 1. If you feel like a hotshot whose actions control major events across the globe and who may in fact be the only person who actually really exists, press whatever button you think is best. If you are devastated by the hollow nature of every peak as it slips inevitably into imperfect memory, weep now. Question 4. Your best friend has recently had children and is unable to see you as often socially. Are you? In awe of the joyous procession of one human life to the next, press 1. Relieved that your friend has found it within themselves to love their ugly baby, press 2. Planning to wear a baby disguise and commit a series of crimes to turn your friend against their child and back toward your waiting embrace, press 3, and you will be transferred to our baby disguise order hotline. Moody Phone Baby Disguises. Don't be a baby. Do look like one. Question 5. You come across a tortoise on its back in the middle of the desert. If you just realized that you're probably a robot, press 1 and a Blade Runner will be dispatched to your home. If you long to flip the tortoise right side up, press 2 and a lie-detecting Blade Runner will be dispatched to your home. If you long to flip the tortoise upright and smear it with feces, smear the phone with feces now. Question 6. A close friend approaches you in public. If you assume they are coming in for a hug, press 1. If you assume they are finally going to tell you that they hate you, press 2. If your phone is smeared with feces, clean phone now. Question 7. The friend approaches and says something rude to you. What is your first thought? If you responded, they must be having a bad day, press 1. If you responded, they must have burned any love we once shared from their hearts and now view me as the scum I am, press 2. If you responded, they're made out of spiders, press star. Question 8. You have engaged the services of a therapist. What role do they serve? A helpful guide on your journey to self-actualization? Press 1. A magical mind wizard who selfishly refuses to tell you how to live just to keep those checks coming. Press 2. A good source of bone meal and weather-resistant wall insulation. Press 9. 1. Question 9. Tell me about your childhood. Rated R. Sure. How did that make you feel? Well, I'm afraid we're out of time, but you were right to come in and see me. Your problems are tremendous, and only I can help. A bill has been dispatched to your house via Blade Runner. Congratulations! Test completed. Our system is now determining what's fucked up with you. Bleep blip blop, calculating, buffers, algorithms ding. You are an urban space person. Fully actualized, always present, never out of control of your emotions, completely woke, with no flaws except just enough to keep you from having an annoying lack of flaws. You're perfect. To be mailed a certificate indicating this amazing accomplishment, scan your debit card now. Or to purchase tickets to the
4:25 p.m.
showing of Spy Kids 3D, press 7. This phone system serves no other functions. Goodbye.
Will started taking this producing professional class at UCLA, which
Okay.
has been really cool. But great. But it's also weird because usually he's the one that stays at home because he's usually works from home. He's a director, and he's just been gone. So I'm like, what do I
Gotcha.
do?
Oh, are you someone who likes to have someone around
I get
during the day?
Not necessarily, but it's just
Okay.
it's been so long since I've been the one at home.
So it's just the routine.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I've worked from home
Yeah.
exclusively for 15 years. It's hard to imagine another life now.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah, the only real job and it wasn't even that real, but was at the Apple store on campus in college. I worked there as the Apple expert because no one else knew shit about Macintosh stuff.
That's
That-
really funny.
I'm
Wow.
old enough that when I was in college, Apple was a niche and everyone was like, it'll fail soon.
What?
Pre-iPhone. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I remember the first...
There was a
yeah.
tiny section that was do you have a Macintosh? You can talk to this loser.
Whoa, this loser over
Yeah.
here knows all about it.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. My first class of college, we were all in rows or whatever. We all had our laptops, and our professor walked in, and his first line was, "Well, I guess Apple won," because everyone had not a single person had a
Oh
Mac.
yeah. From the vantage point of the professor, you would just
you
see
all the
logos
rows of
glowing. Yeah.
yeah.
What was that noise?
Oh,
Is that you?
This. Yeah.
No worries. I just like knowing where noises are coming
Oh
from.
yeah.
We just got a brand new toy here that's supposed to fix everything, but I was like, if that noise came from this thing, I need to know that. Yeah.
Doodly-doo.
Yeah, this is our first recording on the Claret. It should sound much nicer than our previous sessions.
Have you named it yet?
Well, it's called a Claret Pre-8 USB preamp.
So Claire.
Claire, yeah.
I mean,
It's-
take it or leave it.
It's blood red, which I think is why it's called a Claret.
Ah.
But they misspelled claret if that's what they meant.
Huh.
Because it has 2 T's. I assume it's the name of whoever. Anyway, thank you so much
Oh
for
my God,
coming
you're
to
Seth,
Tales from the Pit. People never know that I'm recording, and it's just, I find it easier to just be in it.
Yeah.
The elevator down the pit was descending as you were
Right.
talking about baking cookies,
And here
you
we
didn't
are.
even know it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, every single day baking cookies does seem like it's a downward trend into some sort of pit.
Actually, I think that's the only part I didn't record. I love that I referenced the only thing the audience would be like, no one mentioned that.
Well, for reference, I bake cookies every night, and that's too much.
And that's how you prevent depression, right?
Prevent
Yeah,
depression.
yeah.
Just shoving cookies into your mouth.
No, but I'm here with Maggie Mae Fish. Thank you so much for coming, Maggie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, bud.
Absolutely. And we're talking about sad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And today, specifically, talking about trying to parse that fuzzy line between, and I know there's overlap, I feel like,
Yeah.
a grief event and depression.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start just by getting the audience to know, if it's all right with you, like what's your relationship to depression? What's your history with depression?
Yeah. I feel like mine is, it's funny in a way. So when I was in high school, I thought I had mono because I was so tired all the time. Like I had no appetite. I would just go to school and then basketball practice and then like
just
go to bed.
Kiss everyone.
Yeah.
Kissing
Yes.
disease.
Yeah. Well, also no one was kissing me. So I don't know how I thought of mono.
Kiss the toilet seat. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. But I was like, oh, this feels
Jack in the Box taco.
Jack in the Box taco, giving me mono, but definitely not from a kiss. No one dated me.
All right. Now they know that.
Now they know. So yeah, I thought I was sick or had the flu or something because I didn't understand why I was so tired. So my mom took me to the doctor, and I was just describing my symptoms, and he was like, okay, we're going to do like a blood test. I did a blood test, came back normal. He was like, okay, I'm going to have you take this like quiz. It's basically just like, it's just a depression quiz. Like, people your age, like, y'all, this is a lot of the times when they first realize like depression symptoms. And I was like, yeah, right. I was like, no, I'm not depressed. Like,
why?
Why the confidence?
I don't know if you can answer that, but why was that your reaction? Because you associated being depressed with what? Weakness? It's just alien? Like how could it be me?
Yeah.
Why do you think that was your reaction?
I think one, alien, just because I didn't know what to reference, I guess. I was like, the media depictions of depression, I was like, I don't have that.
Sure.
But mostly because those are like inaccurate depictions of.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you go by TV and you're like,
right.
I'm not flipping out with selective amnesia and stuff.
Right.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah, and like that's not it. And I also think I was assuming depression was like just sadness, but I was a little more angry than sad. Like I would snap.
That's key.
Yeah,
irritability.
Yep, irritability. Okay. I would like snap at my mom. And
about what age was this?
17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I engineer all the rough stuff sessions, and I'm getting a real insight into what adolescence is like for like girls.
Oh yeah.
And snapping at your mom at 17 seems to be par for the course. Like that's not that weird.
Right. And so I think also because of that, I again didn't think it was depression because like it felt normal. All my other friends were snapping at their moms.
Doc, it's not depression. My mom's just a total bitch.
My mom's just a total bitch, dude.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's not me. It's them, obviously. And that was also my mindset was like, it's not me. Like I felt confident in myself. I really liked myself, and that I didn't associate with depression.
So you felt physically tired?
Yeah, it was mostly physical.
Mostly physical? Did you feel that sort of amotivation also where you just don't want to do shit? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to do anything.
Okay. But yeah, I think people overlook a lot, especially people who haven't contended with it. There's a real physical fatigue to it.
It's so weird. It
Often,
was
from a lot of people.
Yeah, it was just like a big wall of like supreme exhaustion.
Okay.
All the time.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing I could pinpoint that didn't seem normal. Like, yeah, like the anger. I was kind of like, and I'm a teenager and blah, blah, blah.
The world sucks. So
Yeah,
why
the world
shouldn't I be
sucks.
angry? Yeah.
Like pretty much exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I just overlooked all those signs because they didn't fit with what I assumed depression was.
Preconceived notions.
Yeah, preconceived notions. And also I think I thought depression was mostly like I hate myself, and I didn't. So
okay, it can be.
Yeah, it definitely can be. So when I got the test results back, I scored like extremely depressed in all categories except self-confidence.
That's I in my experience that's unique. I'm wondering, so was that, first of all, did the test involve the smiley faces that you circled?
I think so.
Okay.
It's smiley faces are numbers, if I remember correctly.
Well, it's like
rating.
1 to 10, and the 1 is like a face that's like crying hysterically or dead or something.
Yeah.
And the 10 is a smiley face.
Right.
And you say where you are, yeah. But Gosh, I just want to understand how you can have self-confidence while you're depressed. What does that mean?
You know what? It's so weird because I think I still have that.
Okay.
Like still to this day, my depression never really affects how I see myself.
Okay. Because self-loathing's a cornerstone.
I
of it for
know.
me.
I know. It's so weird. And I recently talked to my therapist about this, and she stated the theory that when I was younger, I was like bullied pretty heavily. But my mom would always like pump me full of self-confidence. Like, but you're great. You're so creative and you're sensitive and like you're this and that. So I think I just like internalized that feeling. But I mean, obviously there's give and take. Like I still always think everything's my fault.
Okay. I think that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good parenting is key though.
Yeah. So I think my depression kind of like wrapped itself around me, but just kind of like skipped the like self-loathing.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. So do you fixate on any particular thoughts or concepts when you're depressed or tend to, or is it really just physical for you?
Man, it's most, I can always recognize the physicality. I can always like whenever I, wean myself off of medication for whatever reason, the first thing I'll notice when I'm like, oh man, I should go back on is that I'll just be wanting to sleep.
Yeah.
All the time.
And is it still to this day angriness more than sadness?
Yes.
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 Okay. So it's like
Yeah.
total exhaustion, irritability.
Total exhaustion, irritability. And I think the things,
Interesting.
I do have like circular thoughts, but they're mostly about like the world and like.
So that's what I was wondering. If you're not
Yeah.
fixating on yourself, it must be something external. So it's like that life sucks, right?
Right.
Or the world is bad.
Life, the world, like
The systems are
the
not
systems
built well.
are not built well.
Everything's fucked.
Everything's fucked. Why can't we just listen to each other?
It's 50% true, which is why it's hard when you're depressed.
Yeah. Hold on one second.
Sure.
Someone is ringing me.
No worries. Maggie,
Yes, hi.
as a hardworking person, is taking a phone call in the middle of the podcast recording.
Oh, hi. How's it going?
She answered, "Hi, this is Maggie from Name of Company. I'll ask her for details when she returns."
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, I know you have some measure of self-loathing because of that face you were making while you're on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
To excuse being on the phone, which I don't care about. It's fine. But just for the record, listeners, Maggie did a face that is obviously routine or like practiced.
Yeah.
That's like, sorry, I'm on the
Sorry,
phone.
I'm on the phone. Let me apologize for existing
Yeah.
over again.
Does that work? What?
Oh,
it seemed
yes.
like you answered with a company name. Is
Yeah.
that accurate?
I
Anything
do.
you should plug?
Oh my God. I mean, if you want a spray tan to come to you,
Oh.
spray tan you in your apartment.
Okay.
It's a pretty cool business model. It's this like cool, like hip lady who started like a startup.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Forgive me if this is too forward. You
Oh,
don't
no.
seem spray tanned. Are you a client?
No.
Right.
No.
So advocating but haven't used
Yeah.
yourself.
I
All right.
am alabaster is the correct
That
term.
could be a spray. That would be interesting if they could tone you up. I don't know. So what I wanted to ask
Yes.
was, since it's the topic of the day, basically, was the, like, now looking back, do you tie your first bout of depression to any specific triggering event? Or you also mentioned coming down from medications triggering depression. I sort of want to talk about triggers.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I didn't recognize anything as a trigger. I was just like, well, and also my mom had like dealt with depression a little bit. So I was like, well, it's probably just like genes and hereditary. And then when I got older, the first time I went to therapy, my therapist pointed out that I had gotten into college early that year. Like I did
Like a year early, or like the birthday thing where it's
you're
you're on the early end.
I did a early application.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget what they call that. It's like when you really know what school you want to go to.
But were you like Doogie Howser-esque? Like, were you younger than everyone around you?
No.
Okay,
no.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just by.
Trying to build your legend.
I
up here.
know. I know. Let me put myself
You're
back
like,
down.
yeah, I was 9 as a freshman.
Yeah. I was a brain surgeon. But I was like 9 months before anyone else.
Okay.
And I had gotten into the college that I had wanted to go to for like all 4 years of high school.
Oh, interesting. You had that goal.
Yeah, I had
So
that
clear.
goal. And my therapist pointed out once you met it, like that's when your depression started. And I was like, you're right. When I had nothing to work for, like all of your young like education is all building towards like, you gotta get to college. You gotta get to college. My God. And then like after achieving that, I just depression was just like, now's the time to strike. When you have no goals, you have nothing to work towards.
Man, doesn't
Yeah.
it suck that you can't? Because now looking back, do you agree that you should have been present in like the
Oh my
experience
God.
of college is
Yes.
very rewarding and enjoyable?
Yes, I should have
Yeah,
been
right. If you can be present for
right.
it, yeah.
And like
It's like now you're here, enjoy it.
Right.
Like learn shit and
Learn
make friends and
shit.
stuff.
or
Yeah.
like fuck around in high school because it doesn't matter anymore. Like have
That's
fun.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, that was such like a retroactive, because it wasn't until years later someone pointed that out. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And then I realized any time that I really like felt my depression kind of like welling up was when a huge project was over or
Okay.
like I accomplished something.
Summer vacation syndrome kind of.
Yeah. And then for a while I was so mad because I was like, oh great, so every time I'm happy, I'm just gonna immediately like
Sure, be sad,
Great.
right?
Yeah, so working on being in the present has been
Always, I think, for all of us.
yeah.
There is a documentary about a guy who has a brain injury, such that when he gets happy, he becomes
passes out?
paralyzed from the neck down.
Oh no.
Yeah, so like he lives in a house next door to his family's house because like the sight of his wife's face or his kids paralyzes him.
Oh.
And when he sees them, he tries not to be too jazzed about it. It's such a weird existence. Yeah.
That's like fairy tale-esque.
Yeah.
And it's like
yeah.
sadness in a way.
Totally.
Ooh.
So okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting the picture here.
Yeah, it's a weird variety of depression, I feel like, because I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're very goal oriented.
Yeah, very goal oriented.
Could you not, or have you?
Mm-hmm.
When one ends, I tend to just pick a new one that's beyond that, right?
Yeah.
So does that not help get you out of it to like pick a new goal?
It does. I think it does. I also just think like not being aware that was the problem. Just
Sure. How can you address it? Until
Right.
Yeah. That's why
Yeah.
therapy is so useful, I think.
so useful.
We'll plug therapy a
We'll
lot.
plug therapy.
Yeah.
It's just nice for someone to hold a mirror and be like, look at this pattern that you keep doing over and over again that you are just like
aware
oblivious
of.
about.
And depression has a fogging effect where it's
Yeah.
when you're depressed, you're not at the best state to introspect.
Right.
And then when you're not depressed, usually my experience has been you're just happy to not be depressed. So like, yeah, it often takes someone else to recognize the pattern for sure.
Right. Yeah.
So you mentioned in the preparatory email, like wanting to talk about grief events.
Yeah.
Were you referencing just finishing projects? Because I don't think most people would be like, yeah, getting into college. That must have been rough, Maggie. We're really sorry.
Oh man. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest like first like big grief moments that had an impact like on my depression was I had a former like best friend, like inseparable. I moved out here basically because she was also out here. She graduated a year before me. We were friends in college. And then like after a year of like trying to do like comedy together, she, like out of the blue, like sent me a message that she like wasn't going to be my friend anymore.
Whoa, the friend dump.
Yes.
Oh, no.
It was the worst. She also blamed, she said that I was blaming, like, the only reason I brought up my depression was to make her feel bad.
Okay.
Which is like, we have been friends for 6 years. Like, we both are on medication. We talk about this all the time.
Okay. So she grappled with depression too. That's even weirder to not.
It was so weird.
Or maybe she was depressed at the time.
Maybe
and
she
just
was
pushing
depressed.
people away. Who knows?
Yeah, something like that. Another therapist was like, it sounds like she has like borderline personality disorder, which is like very extreme. But also, I found out I'm not the only one she's ever done this to.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's a really tricky and popular diagnosis
I
these
know,
days.
I
It's
know.
I do think I've met some people, or like, I think it exists. I believe in it.
But like, what is it really?
I don't know, but when my guy friend's like, don't you? She had borderline, dude. I'm like, I don't.
I think she didn't like you.
Well, it's like when people go like, oh, I have OCD, and you're like,
yeah. Like,
have you seen the Scrubs with Michael J. Fox? He washed his hands till they were bloody and raw. I cried. You just like are neat.
Right.
That's different. Yeah. Or you like to be on time.
yeah.
Or you get irritable.
You're not OCD. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's unanswerable. It could have been a number of things. It could have been whatever.
May she be in therapy answering those questions
now. Exactly.
Okay, so how was that for you, though? Back to you.
Oh, it was bad. I also, another thing that I learned through therapy was like how much importance I place on like friendships and like, so that like leaving my life, it felt like losing your like husband, your significant other. Like,
are you someone who tends to have a lot of friends or like few really intense friendships?
Few like circles. I have a few that are very intense, and then like an outer rim of like close,
sure,
and then like a bigger rim of like, we're hanging out, we're friends.
Me,
right.
Happy in the outer orbit. Could go up or down. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's the different bucket things. But like, so at any given time, I like to ask this question: how many like best friends would you have? Is that a one and only one thing at a time?
That's a good question. I think a younger me, especially the me back then when like this happened, it was like one best friend.
So that must have been hard. And you were in therapy at the time? It sounded like
that prompted me to go to a therapist for the first time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because the depression was so bad. I actually remember, so like that email was sent like maybe like on a Friday, and that weekend I like kind of went on like a self bender. I bought a bunch of these like fruity alcoholic drinks, drank them all in my like apartment.
Any fuzzy navels in the mix?
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It's the first thing I ever drank. We were on a camping trip, and I was 7 years old, and I drank a couple out of the cooler because they don't even taste like alcohol. I had no idea.
They taste like juice.
Right, and my parents caught me, and I was like stumbling around. Yeah, fuzzy navels. Very fruity,
really
very good.
They taste like fruit punch.
I was
They're
trying to
great.
yo-yo and couldn't figure out how to yo-yo, and I was like really drunk and upset.
Whoa.
7-year-old trying to yo-yo in the desert. I won't go.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I feel like I want like a piece of artwork of you just trying to do a yo-yo with like the setting sun.
It would have to be painted on velvet, I think.
Oh yeah. Assumed.
Of course. So, yes, the bender.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
so-
but then better than that, therapy. Because as a recovering alcoholic, I have to say the bender doesn't really help
Bender
that much.
fixed nothing.
Good.
And
Good to say. We got to say that.
fixed nothing, didn't make me feel better. And also I'm such like a straight edge that like it was probably like 4 drinks total.
Sure.
But for me, that was a bender. That was like, I need to get like fucked up.
I didn't
So-
drink till I was 22. I just
Oh yeah.
really took off after that. But
really
just really took to it. But like for that reason, I was like nervous that that's something that bad kids do.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Like I didn't drink all through college. I waited till I was like, I'm an adult now. And I even waited 1 extra year. That's how responsible I am. I'm going to
Watch
heaven.
me. Yeah. Basic same premise.
It is like, even though
yeah.
I was raised secular, still like, I'll be rewarded somehow.
But I did the right thing.
Yeah, because we watch almost 90% of the movies we watch, even though they're not religious, take for granted that good acts get rewarded and bad acts get punished.
There
And it's
you
such
go.
fucking bullshit. This is a
Bullshit.
different topic, but
That's one I thoroughly agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, then
yeah.
woke up Monday and was like, I can't do that. I should sign up for therapy.
was it through the school, like the school counselor, or
So this was
quote unquote real
real therapy.
No offense to any school therapists out there.
No. They're all not real. No, I'm kidding. So kidding.
No, I've had many therapists who charged a lot who were bad.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah.
Oh boy. This time I actually went to a doctor again first.
Sure.
I called my mom and was like, oh, like this happened and like this is crazy and like
Did you admit to the drinking immediately?
No.
Okay,
I
good.
don't even think she knew that. I was just like sobbing, was like, I can't believe this happened. Like, I don't feel good. Like, can you make me a doctor's appointment? And like my mom is fantastic and like made a doctor's appointment for me for this like very kind, nice lady doctor.
But like a medical doctor.
Yeah, just like for a
Saying,
checkup.
like, my daughter wants an appointment because she's sad. I'm
Ki-
just wondering
kinda,
why you didn't
yes.
jump right to therapist.
Well, I mean, very good question. So at that point I had when I was 16 had been on antidepressant meds, and I think my first thought was like, first and foremost, I feel like I need to get back on them.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the position, which I understand because I've been in it, where you can go to
Right.
the MD and say, I've been on this before. It works. The symptoms are recurring. Can you just give me this, please?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So kind of did that thing. I think my mom told them she wants a checkup and also wanted to ask you something, I think is what she, and I just am now remembering this. I got into the doctor's room. I was sitting on the like medical thing or whatever.
The paper sheet, the
paper.
crinkle table.
Crinkle table. The doctor walks in. She asks me my name, and I just immediately start bursting. I burst into tears.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was just like, I was like the that kind of.
That's good, man. I think most people with depression have trouble revealing it.
Yeah, or they're much better at
Especially to a professional who can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was just so in such a bad place. I couldn't. It was just.
Well, you're experiencing acute grief as well, which is sort of what we're talking about. How they
Yeah.
overlap. Sure. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was so nice. She like hugged me and was like, "Oh, baby." And then I like told her that like I really came here because I'm feeling really down and like I used to have depression and I feel like I need to be on meds again. And she was like, oh my God. She melted and was
Yeah.
like, absolutely, like, we need to, fix you, or not fix you. She didn't.
She probably didn't phrase it that
Probably
way.
didn't phrase it that way. But she was very understanding. And
Oh,
was
honey,
like,
you're broken,
oh,
dear.
honey, come
We're gonna
here."
fix you right up.
Yeah. So it was her who was like, I'm going to yes, I'm going to give you a medication, but I also suggest that you go to a therapist. If you want, I can suggest somebody. And at the time I was like, I think I should, because it was that acute grief that felt different somehow. It definitely like triggered a depression episode, and all like my symptoms came back with like full force. But at this time, it wasn't generalized. Oh, I'm sad. It was like this thing happened, and now
Yeah.
I can't pull my like life together.
So I'm gonna ask. I know it's a really hard question.
I'll do my best.
You differentiate, or you say like there was the grief and then later there was a depression. So something inside you can tell that they feel qualitatively different in some way.
Yes.
Is it just that one is generalized and one is focused, but otherwise they're the same symptoms? Like, let's dig into what's the difference between those two feelings.
I think that's a great question. I do think it feels a little bit different, And I do think being able to pinpoint to specific things helps me be like, okay, like that's grief. That's just like a life event that was sad and it's making you feel sad. And because of your depression, it can trigger other things. Like if that's the trunk of a tree, then it starts to bing, 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 bing. Like also you're bad at what you love to do. Like also people probably hate you for some nebulous reason. It'll just
probably.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, I'm sure. I know.
Hey, if you're listening to this, people probably hate you. Just deal with it. That's why we're here for you. Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of times when it is that grief, I can pinpoint to that tree trunk and be like, oh, that's what started to make me feel terrible in all the other parts of my life was that event. So
when you're in the depression phase, do you find yourself crying more or less or the same as the grief phase?
Ooh, less, I think.
Me too.
Yes.
I think that might be true for most people.
Yeah. And also I feel like with depression, it kind of just feels like, okay, I know how to handle this. Oh, it feels like depression. I kind of know what to do, like a muscle memory.
She's doing a bicep curl. Curl. So, but I would just want to bring that up because I appreciate that metaphor, right? Like if you've had a lot of experience with depression.
Yeah.
Which is stupid because as soon as you know you're depressed, which is hard to know sometimes, you should go get help and break it immediately.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying where you're like, a low to medium level depression. You're just like, I've done this. It's like lifting a weight.
Right.
I'll just keep going forward with the weight on my back.
Yeah.
Or my ripped bicep, whatever.
Right. Or like, I can just be more aware of like talking kind to myself and I can kind of curb like negative impacts. But like if it's, like one of these grief events, it's just like, like knocks the weight just completely out of your hands and you're like, but what?
In a way you can give in to the grief more readily. Like when I'm depressed, I still try to keep my routine and my life together. This is really weird to say, but the pit is where you say some weird things. But like when a loved one has died, at least you absolutely know why you're upset. You're like, oh, someone I love died.
Yes.
Like I can at least pinpoint it. And it doesn't mean XYZ, although it can trigger depressed XYZ. Feelings. Right. But I also feel like, and it's true that you get these things called stress molecules out when you cry that actually are taking chemicals out of your system that relax you, like crying is cathartic. And I feel like in the times where, when a loved one has died, in my experience, I've had the shock phase, but then it's really easy to cry. Yeah. For like a week or two.
Right.
At least. And the crying is very helpful in getting through the grief process.
So helpful.
And then depression will drag on for 5 months and you can't cry. And if you cried, it would make it over faster, but
you can't because
you're like
it's
numb.
Yeah. Because you're so used to handling that you're like, well, I don't need to go cry about my depression because it's, whatever kind of at this point. Yeah. Just like part of.
Well, and when it has the most hold over me, I always end up thinking I'm not depressed. I'm being smarter and more realistic than I usually am. Like that's what keeps me from self-care is I'll think, am I depressed or is everyone just a fucking idiot?
Yeah.
Yeah, the world sucks and I see that clearly.
Right.
And other people who people say are, quote, depressed are just realists like me.
I sometimes...
Like the world is that bad and life sucks.
I do sometimes think that exact same thought. And,
I don't even know what the truth is, but I know that your life is better if you treat that as if you're depressed and find a way out of it. Because let's put it this way. Let's say we are in a hell dimension. Like, let's say God
this is the
evil,
worst version.
or like it's gonna things are not going well. You will do more good as an engaged, energized, optimistic person,
than
whether you're right
that.
or wrong. Yeah. And you're gonna die without knowing.
Right. So you might as well not. That's so funny.
That's be happy.
That's an exact thought pattern that I have. Is like, am I awful or is the world awful? I think it's the world. JK, that's a terrible mindset to have. JK, that's awful.
What was your experience like? So college happened. You went to therapy. Have you been regular therapy goer since then, or is it intermittent?
So the first therapist I had, she was Okay, not great, in that we just didn't really click very well. She was a little too like, oh, I'm so sorry for my taste.
Oh, you like that from the doctor, but not
Yeah,
the therapist.
no,
Okay.
yeah. I liked the doctor hugging me. Or like I would try to like joke about things, and she'd be like, "Oh," and I'd be like, "Oh, no, that was a joke," or almost. I don't want to say reading too much into it, but she was also there's a specific type of therapist that really focuses on like your childhood.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
And like for the most part, I had a pretty normal, like fairly great childhood. So I kind of felt like a lot of the times it was just like me telling her about my grandparents when I was like, I want to be talking about me.
Or the present moment, at least.
Right.
I've had therapists who focus exclusively on childhood. I have the therapist who only says, how did that make you feel? Or only wants you to talk the whole time. I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
my
okay.
current therapist is the best therapist I've ever had.
Ooh.
And she absolutely refuses to give me any life advice. But she does speak a lot to, as you said, reflect back patterns or make observations. But then I'll go like, so what should I do between the two things? And she'll go like, I don't do that.
Ooh. I like that.
I do like that.
Yeah.
I have never had the therapist who will just tell me what to do. Have you had that? I crave it.
I think we all crave that in a way. Hence why Jordan Peterson is so popular.
Sure.
Tell me what to do, Daddy.
But then if I got it, I'd probably be like, I resent the choices you made for me eventually. Right.
Yeah.
But I want it, never having had it.
Yeah. Out here I've had two fantastic therapists. The first one, she was great, and she dabbled in like the life advice, but more so, yeah, she like pointed out patterns. She like validated my like reality in a way.
That's so important.
Yeah.
And is that your favorite therapy style? I think what I want to get out to the people is people give up on therapy fast, and it's just like finding a doctor or even a mechanic.
Yeah.
Like you have to find a good fit.
You got to find a good fit.
And then it really is one of the best things you can do for yourself.
Right. I mean, comparing it to my first experience in therapy where I was just like, what do I do? I think after a month, I like kind of kept making excuses of not going because I was like, I feel better on my medication. This, I don't really see it helping all that much. And then like the second time that I tried it out here, it was like life-changing.
Great. And what
like,
made it such a refreshing thing? Like what's their technique?
That's a great question. She
High doses of LSD and a guided trip,
yes,
right? But
obviously.
then what?
Lots of hypnotism.
That's boilerplate, right? Little molestation to get you comfortable.
Hey. She did tell me it was pretty like 3 times. I was like, am I?
Transference.
Yeah.
I had a therapist who was like a 50-50 mix of great and awful because I'm a robot, so I really like behavioral psychology.
Okay, yeah.
So like she wouldn't tell me what to do, but would help me with practicing meditation, breath exercises, thought exercises. And I'm really into that stuff because I like things that you can like do and then you check it off and you made yourself better, whether it works or not.
Yeah.
But then the other half of the time she would talk about either famous celebrities that she had treated, which she's not supposed to do, or like her own time in Hollywood because she used to be in Hollywood.
Oh, whoa.
And many times, too many times, she's an older woman, she would talk about how like, transference is very common. Like if you're feeling attracted to me, you could just say so. It wouldn't be weird.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
No, it's not. I have lots of issues. So that's not in the pile.
That's not one of them. I'm trying to think specifically. She was incredibly encouraging. She also pointed out, she did look into my childhood and actually pointed out like very helpful things. Like being bullied. When I was talking about it, I kept rationalizing why they would bully me. And then she was like, you always rationalize when people are do awful things, especially specifically to you. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I do that.
What were you bullied for, weirdo?
Fuck, I was weird.
Just weird kid. That's all.
I had very crooked teeth. This tooth
Okay.
stuck out like straight.
Okay.
This one.
I had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Never bullied. Man, I don't know if it's a gender thing, but it does feel like it's because
It
I
was
was a boy.
all my bullies were women, like the cool, popular girls.
Well, yeah, I don't.
so-
I know it has something to do with privilege, but I don't know the exact connections.
Yeah.
But in high school, I was morbidly obese with super crooked teeth and bad
Yeah.
acne, and I was so fucking popular.
I bet, but
And
you.
everyone was so fucking nice to me that I didn't realize till college that I was fat. Like I had body dysmorphia the reverse way. Like I could
Wow.
look in the mirror and not realize that I was overweight.
Oh my god.
Because no one ever bullied me, ever.
Wow.
Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I think I was just like a prime suspect because I also was so sensitive that like people can just tell that there's like no barrier between your like soul and the world. And
That
like,
I had. The few times someone was mean to me, I cried immediately.
Yeah.
And maybe they left me alone for that reason. I don't know.
I think I was just like prime fodder. I looked weird. I wasn't popular.
Play by yourself?
Played by myself.
Okay.
Absolutely. I didn't talk really in 6th grade. Because again, in 5th grade, another best friend of mine had been like, I want to be friends with other people, which is totally understandable. But then I was just like alone. I was like, okay, well, I get it. Cause I'm weird and a lot of people like don't like me. So like, I get it. I'll just like go to class and I'll just try to smile and like,
Wait, but were they saying they didn't want to see you at all ever anymore?
well, they stopped inviting me to stuff.
Multiple
So-
people can go to things. What a dick.
I mean, yeah, but still, so like when I was talking about it, I would be like, oh, I get it. Like, I understand. I'm very empathetic, so I can put myself in like in those people's shoes and look at me from an outside perspective and be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, she's a weirdo. Like, don't invite her. Like she would say weird stuff instead of
God
fun
damn
stuff.
it, kids. Well, they're so... I can't speak for all kids, but kids
Yeah.
seem really into the hierarchy, the popularity
Yeah.
hierarchy in an animalistic way before they develop
Absolutely.
self-identity where like hopefully by the time you're an adult, at least some percentage of the time, you're like, I'm cool. Oh, if someone's mean to me, fuck them. They seem like an asshole.
Right.
But like
yeah.
when you're a kid, you're like still figuring out everyone's right. Like everyone's an
Everyone's right.
authority. So
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this kid who's only 1 year older, which means they're 9, which means they don't know shit, says like I'm weird. Uh-oh, I better
must
look into
be.
that. I must
Yeah.
be weird. And I had so many parallel because I like to draw a lot. And my best friend, Griffin, who's been on The Pit,
Yeah.
didn't like to draw. And a kid came to the school, transferred to school in 6th grade who liked to draw.
Yeah.
And I had that. I was the aggressor. I was like, I want to draw with Stephen Patch under the trellis instead of playing Navy SEALs with you in the sandbox.
Romantics. No.
And every recess we drew instead, and it was a big problem.
Yeah.
And weirdly, you brought this up earlier, but since I quit drinking, my only real bout of depression was recently, and it did come from a grief event, which is that same best friend, 25 years later, Griffin Rowell, moved to LA. He was in Oklahoma City for many years.
Yeah.
He moved to LA. He got a job that he called his dream job that I expected him to stay here for a long time. His family's here. Then he got an even better job in Montana. So he and his whole family are moving away, and he has these 2 adorable kids I've gotten really attached to too. And like that really gave me a rough couple weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird how there's an index, and I'm not going to quote it because I'll misquote it, but that you can look up where it's the grief scale of events in your life. And I think there's obviously it's like your significant other dying is way up there, your child dying. But I think losing contact with your best friend is way up, like above.
Oh my god.
Above like an aunt or uncle dying, which it shouldn't be, but it is.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from the girl who burst into tears when the doctor asked, "What's your name?" after like
She used to ask me my name.
I used to have a name.
And you guys were close? Yeah, she just didn't remember
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did that I keep dragging you back to your childhood. I don't want to be one of those therapists.
No.
But I do think it's tough to gauge because no one really knows. Some psychiatrist out there thinks I'm full of shit, but I truly believe like certainly no one truly knows definitively what are all the formative properties of like a personality.
Oh, no, it would be impossible to know.
Right. Because people do, as you age, I agree that you change less, but people still change in crazy, uncharacteristic ways for who knows what reason in certain moments.
Yeah.
So who knows how much you should focus on the childhood. But I understand why, like, it feels like there's something there. Childhood feels really important to us. I always wonder if that's just because it's the memories we've revisited the most. So if you stack...
So you go back to it so often, it becomes part of who you are in a way?
Yeah, well, memories are... I mean, they've kind of proven, I believe, this is my understanding, that memories, the structure of the neurons that store your memories in the hippocampus actually change as you tell the story back to yourself. That's why, like, Brian, who's that newscaster who claimed he was in a Black Hawk helicopter that got shot down?
Oh, yeah.
Brian Williams.
Yes.
But he was wrong. And Malcolm Gladwell did a good episode on about how he could easily not have been wrong because he was in a Black Hawk helicopter in that convoy.
Yeah.
His didn't get shot down, but as soon as the incident happened, they landed and he interviewed 100 people about what the experience was like.
Right.
And he's in shock at that time in his own self.
Yeah.
So like your neurons... Like he could be honestly surprised. Oh, I didn't do that?
Right.
I really thought I did.
It could have been like dip, 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 dip.
And your memory's flawed like that. And so childhood memories we tell ourselves are almost like our foundational legends of who we are.
And who knows how accurate they are to the...
To like your actual sensory like input you had that day. Yeah. And then I also wonder like, but half the time I think most of the stuff I do is just based on a simple algorithm of like what I want in the moment. Does that make sense? I don't like not a surface. Like every desire just has another desire waiting behind it to fill the gap. Like you just have as an animal, you just have a series of prioritized needs.
Right.
And I don't believe in free will, so I guess that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
You just kind of do whatever the prioritized list says next.
Yeah. I think that, and I think
Thoughts on all that? Go, Maggie. Go
me. Yeah, I think I agree with all that to like a degree for sure. And I also think that like, you know, the benefit of like looking back to those memories and whatever is just to find out if there's a thing that you kept going back to that you believe is true about yourself, that a therapist can be like, I don't know if that's true, or like, I don't know if that's the best way for you to think about your life, or like, I don't know if that's like the most healthy like lesson to learn from that like moment in your life.
That's such a great point. Because if like our memories are fables we tell ourselves, you can actually learn more, or at least equally useful information about what does this say about my processing process
that
I told the story this way. Look for your patterns of how you remember things. And
I actually think that's why my therapist now is so great. Just because she's like, I'll, you know, be talking about something and she'll be like, oh, like what you're saying is this, but what I'm hearing is like this, which is like a thing that obviously I'd never thought about. And as soon as she said that, I'm like, oh, you're right.
Like, I was with all my friends and, you know, they were spitting on my backpack and calling me loser and farting on my face and stuff. And we were just hanging out. So that was like what my friends were like. Sounds like they were bullies.
They were bullies.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, they were. Oh, shit.
Kind of,
yeah.
To a degree. I was telling her about this story. In like sixth grade, I like went to a water park with who I thought were my three best friends, and then they ditched me as I was going down a slide. And I was kind of telling it in the like, oh, this is what friendship looked like at different age. And she was like, okay, tell me a time that you were like sad. And I was like, oh, so I was like with my best friends. And I was like, that was kind of sad. And she was like, wait, they ditched you? What happened? I was like, oh, well, I went and I found my mom. And then, oh, wait, I guess I did cry the whole way back. And I asked them why they ditched me. And I was like, oh, wait, that was like a really bad day.
Like, they didn't ditch you and be like, surprise, we were around the corner.
No,
they were like, let's get out of here.
Yeah,
Let's
they
bounce.
ditched me to hang out because they were several degrees cooler than I was.
And it's so fucking artificial.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be that way. I was in Montessori school till 6th grade and never experienced bullying. And then went to middle school for only 7th grade. And the bullying was so intense that when we do a bullying episode, I'll have great stories involving a stabbing.
What?
And a guy who sent emails under the name The Angel of Death
Oh my God.
to cyberbully me. So I guess I did have bullies, but what was crazy, it was so brief because then my mom specifically moved the family to a place because she heard the school district was good. And I went back to having a school where there really weren't any bullies. Like everyone at this, like you know what I mean? The dumbest, jockiest, frattiest guy was still a really nice guy. They're just somehow, it was a very small mountain town and no one was really a dick.
Well, it was funny because I feel like, so I went to the same, from like junior kindergarten to high school, I had the same 30 kids. And by the time we got to high school, we all kind of like dropped our bullshit and we all like became like friends.
Oh, that's so weird to me because I had to transition to have it be the same people. Would be like, you have to reconfigure and be like, remember we were all shitheads? Let's just not be.
Yeah. And so I honestly also think that kind of like skewed my worldview because in a way I was like, oh my God, everyone's redeemable. Oh my God. Like my bullies, they can become my best friends. Like from then to high school, you know, all people are good. Like these are things that just I had like confirmed for me in a tiny little like petri dish of like 30 kids that I just like believed about the world, which set me up for so much like
I have that. Yeah,
pain
I get you.
Yeah.
The PSA for that I think is important is
it
is a loving act of empathy to believe that everyone's redeemable.
Yeah, and I kind of think you should still believe that.
I believe that it's true. You have a right to protect yourself and your own emotional identity, though.
Right.
And that's for a lot of people who I think got depression in childhood. Often a factor is you think to be a nice kid or a nice person is... Which we're taught.
Kind. We're taught.
I loved, like, I worship Jesus non-literally as like, but the coolest person is the person who could turn the other cheek. Like I would write.
That was the like martyrdom was like you gave up everything for other people. That's so beautiful.
That got to me too. Somehow I thought way cooler than any action hero was the action hero's like. And I wrote stupid short stories and poems about a guy who like went to the war and refused to fight and they just shot him and he died in the field, but he was like, I won't kill anyone.
Yeah.
Like that stupid Mel Gibson Hacksaw Ridge movie. But I'm like, that captured my imagination so much.
Yeah.
And it's not bullshit yet. It took therapy for me to realize you have every right to
protect yourself.
Protect your emotional self. Like, yeah, you can believe with full charitable heart that like, oh, I hope that bully who fucked me around, like, I hope they
grow and learn. And
But you don't have to sit there and take it. You can leave the situation or like take steps to put up boundaries.
I honestly, I think that's the other reason I do really love my therapist because like till this year, I had no concept of protecting myself, like watching out for myself, like even protecting me from like people who would be bad for me. I just like had, and especially friends, which is really weird. I've never had a problem with anyone I've ever dated because the world tells us, oh, you should vet the people you date.
Sure.
Like you should vet them. You should study them like under a microscope to be like, all right, who are you really? But with friends, I never had that attitude and I never realized that I should like, you know, just get to know someone before you immediately like bring them into like your inner circle or
even as people vetted you and kicked you out of their friendship.
Yes,
you didn't realize I could do that.
Yeah, I had no like not
you can't
even
friend dump me. I friend quit.
Yeah, I friend quit. You can't do that. I quit. Yeah, I had no concept in my brain like at all that was even a thing that other people did or that I should do or like
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you just think if a relationship isn't working, like, oh, what could I change in myself to accommodate them?
Yeah,
right?
like which again is weird because like again with romantic partners, I'd always be like, oh, bye, like to that curb.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that either.
Yeah, but for some reason, yeah, like friendship, I just never applied the same like mechanics to that in a weird way. Until like this year.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that's fairly recent.
Very recent.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Therapy's great.
And inspiring inspiration for all the listeners.
Yeah.
I think we've hit on a lot of practical advice, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The therapist I'm with now has me do one of my favorite exercises I've ever done in therapy, which is a spreadsheet where during notable times throughout the week, like a time you experienced crisis or heightened emotion, it could be happy, any heightened experience, you log like just the emotional feeling that swept over your body, then what thoughts you had in your brain, and then what you did as a result. And that's been very illuminating.
I like that a lot.
Pattern-wise, yeah.
I recently learned how to talk myself down from a panic attack.
See, I just went to a medical doctor for treatment for panic attacks because as my depression has ebbed, I realized I have a real issue with anxiety.
That's also a recent thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were probably happening at the same time, but the depression masked the anxiety. Now that I've been not depressed for a long time, I realize I'm way too tightly wound.
Yeah.
And I went and asked for medication, and she's super holistic, which in theory is something I always am like, that's what we should do. We cram pills down. But now, because I'm anxious, I'm like, just give me the fucking pills,
Give me
dude.
the pills, man.
I had Ativan when I was 12. Give me some fucking Ativan.
Yeah.
And she has me on valerian root and coached me on how to breathe my way through a panic attack. And I'm like, breathe through it. Breathe through it. I need drugs.
My soul's crushing like this way.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back and demand the drugs a second time, and we'll see how it goes.
I feel like if you can't easily talk yourself down, go fucking get those drugs.
I can't talk myself down. She gave me a bunch of advice. I bought a triangular pillow.
Oh.
I'm supposed to lie in the room with a cover over my head, breathing into a paper bag on the triangular pillow, and drink valerian root and take melatonin every night. And I have no doubt that all these things contribute minorly to combating general anxiety. But when I'm having like a panic attack where I think my heart is going to explode,
It's not helping. Yeah.
The valerian root and the triangular pillow is not cutting it.
Oh, man.
Well, we're about out of time.
Yeah.
Is there anything pressing that I interrupted too much for you to bring up? Because I know I do that.
No, I don't think so. I guess, yeah, just like it is super hard to tell the difference between like just your depression that you've been living with and like life events that will like knock the wind out of you. But you know, there is a difference, and one informs the other. And at least for me, medication helps all of it, and therapy specifically helps me with like grief and life events. But from what I learned in therapy, I usually can apply to like any sort of just like depression phase. So yeah, it's just like.
Yeah, because Soren mentioned having grief but never feeling depressed, so it's clearly differentiable.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Like someone close to him could die, and he would cry, and still all his brain would say is, "You're sad because this person died, and one day you won't be sad about it anymore, and life will return to normal."
Oh my God!
My brain doesn't think that. It thinks this person died, the world is over.
This person died, the world is over. You'll never be the same. You'll never get him back. What is death? Why are we living?
Like, why bother? You're going to die someday fairly soon, relatively speaking. May as well be today. Welcome to Tales from the Pit. Now, but I think the most important thing we've learned from Maggie today is vet your friends, vet your therapists.
Yes.
You deserve it.
You deserve it. It's okay. If you don't get along with someone, it's not on you.
But don't just ditch them at the water park.
Yeah, just don't ditch them at the water park. If you don't like someone, have an adult conversation about why you would like to step away from the friendship. That'd be great. Yeah.
Oh, really? I just slowly engage less and less and less until...
Or do that.
Because
That's
I'm so
also okay.
I feel like the conversation would hurt too. I try to even like ease friends out of my life.
The first person that I talked with my therapist when she was kind of like, she kind of drills me, which is also a great thing. She was like, okay, who's someone that is not good in your life? Let's vet them now. Like, I'll show you how to vet someone. And I picked someone. And then by the end we concluded, she shouldn't really be in my life. So yeah, I kind of just like baby.
But there wasn't a big
away.
conversation. Yeah,
No.
A big confrontation.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
All right. Well, before I let you go, I don't want to, because I saw on Twitter you said Mike let the cat out of the bag, and I felt bad.
Oh, no.
If I jumped the gun too early.
You did not.
Do you want to explain a bit about what the new show's going to be?
Yes,
Please do.
Especially since I did, I guess, talk about a lot about friendship.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a new podcast called My Top 8. We've already done a couple episodes.
Nice.
It's great. It's basically we talk about friendship, and it gets pretty deep. I would compare it to Tales from the Pit in a way. Just talking about like, what does friendship like mean? That's such a nebulous word. Like exploring that, like people in your life, like what do they do for you? What do you do for other people? Are you a good friend? Like, what does that look like? Letting go of friends, being dumped by friends. Because like you said, it is one of the most like traumatic things that can happen in your life. It's pretty common. So I've had some great conversations about that.
Well, we all can't wait to hear it. My Top 8 coming soon to the Small Beans feed. Where else can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and YouTube. I've been doing these very fun like film analysis videos. Come hang
a lot
out
of gaming
with me.
stuff. You're on Patreon, I know that.
Yes, Patreon.
Want to have you
My
on
name.
one-upsmanship, but you play very specific
I know.
games.
I feel like every
that I
week
haven't
Adam's like,
played.
"What about this game?" I'm like,
You're like,
Animal Crossing.
I play
He's
this
like,
game. Yeah. Animal Crossing's a phenomenon that deserves to be covered, so maybe we'll just bite the bullet and do it.
I mean,
I'm not much for Harvest Moon or Animal Crossing or any of those.
those are mine.
All right.
Favorite games.
All right.
Yeah.
Topic for a different pit.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Maggie. It's been great having you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See everyone next time.